All right, I want to show you how to create a parameter report in Report Builder. So basically I'm going to create a normal report and then we'll add a parameter to it to make it a parameter report. So as far as creating a report goes, there's nothing you need to really do differently than you normally would. So I'm doing that now. I'm just making a report as I normally would. There's one thing I want to note about this. As you're creating your report, you could actually, at this step where you put in your SQL query for your report, you could actually add the parameter right here, but we're not going to do it that way. We're going to create the report normally and then add the parameter later. Either way is fine. There's really no difference. Okay, so I've created the report here. Like I said, I didn't do anything that I wouldn't normally do when creating a report. I'm going to run it just to show you why we might make this a parameter report, and then we'll do that. So this is just a simple database that would say emulates video rentals. So this shows us all the rentals and when they occurred and who rented them. But suppose for the sake of argument we wanted to see just when a particular tape was rented instead of seeing all the tapes. So we can add a parameter to do that. So I want to show you how we could customize this report and make it do that. So there's just a couple steps to making this a parameter report. So we're going to go into the design view, and over here in the report data window, we're going to find our data set. So I'm going to expand data sets here, and whatever your data set is called, you want to right click on it. And we're going to click query here. So basically we're going to edit that query. Like I said, we could have done this when we built the report, but if we want to do it after the fact, it's just a matter of right click, go to query, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add a where clause here. But it's going to be slightly different than a normal where clause. So I want to talk about that. So we'll say where tape num equals. But this is what makes it a parameter. We're going to put parentheses, and then we're going to, inside that, we're going to have @ sign, and then some type of, I'll call it user input or something. Whatever you want to call your parameter, it doesn't really matter. But instead of putting an actual tape number in our query here, we're going to put that parentheses, @ sign, and then just a logical name for your parameter. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And now when we run this, it will behave differently. So before we ran it, we saw a full list of all our rentals. But notice now, and this is different than some other programs, the parameter is up here. It's not real pronounced, but up here is where we put a tape number in. All right, so when the users use the parameter report, they'll have to know this behavior. I'm just going to find a tape number here, so we'll put in 004 and see if that works. So when the user puts in their parameter, they can type it in and hit the enter key, or they can go over here once they've typed in a value and hit view report. Try a different tape number. I guess that one wasn't in the database. I'll try 0100. So that's really all there is to it. Now you've got a report that's specialized. So you might use this, say, if you're looking for a certain keyword in a description field, you could have the user type in that keyword here. Instead of getting a report of all kinds of things, they can get a report that just contains that particular phrase or that particular word or something like that. So those steps are all you really need to know. But I also want to show you one more thing about using parameter reports, and that is it applies to the one we just did. So say for the sake of argument here, the user doesn't know these tape numbers. So how could we make this sort of give them a list of the acceptable values? And it could be usernames, it could be whatever the user is supposed to be typing in here. So I want to show you how to customize this parameter report a little bit further so that it makes it more user friendly. So to do that, it's kind of a couple steps. So to add the parameter, it was pretty straightforward. You just right click here, go to query. But to add that suggestion list that I was talking about is a couple steps involved. So step one, we're going to go back to the design view. And over here on data sets, this time we're just going to right click on the main folder that says data sets. And we want to add a new data set. All right, so this is sort of the first step. Right click here, do add data set. And we can use, if it's the same data source, we can use the same source there. So that's what we want to do here. When this wizard comes up, we want to use the same one we already had. So click that. And then again, whatever we called our original data source, I didn't give it a specific name, so whatever you called it, it should appear here. You just select that. So I click that radio button, I click this and selected my data set, and then we need to provide an SQL query that's going to go look up some values. So in this case, I'll talk about this query and why it makes sense. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a select from videos table that has the tape number and also the title of the tape. So that will provide the user to be able to see the titles and select from those. So that's why I'm using this particular query in this second query for my suggestion list. So select that, choose that, and then put in a query. And then just hit OK. Now, step two, like I said, this is sort of a two-part process. So step two of that is, again, over here in the report data area, we want to expand the parameters. So we added one parameter to this report. We called it whatever we called it. I called mine user input. So over here, we want to right-click on that, whatever we happen to call it. So I'm going to right-click on user input, go to properties, and when this screen comes up, what you're going to need to do is go to available values. All right. So the things you need there aren't going to be on the general area. They're going to be under available values. So click that. Then choose get values from a query. Basically that query we just put together. So we need to select that. And then we just need to choose these three drop downs. So the first drop down, dataset 2. If I'd given it a better name, it would have a better name, but we call it dataset 2. So I want to select that. That's that one I just created with tape number and title in it. And then you have to choose the value and the label. So the value is going to be what you're matching on your parameter. So in this case, that tape num is the value we're trying to match up. So that's what I want to choose there. And then the label field will just be the only field left, in this case the title, so that's what the user can kind of see to possibly click on will be the title, and then for the label field, and then the value field will be the tape num that will go look that up in the rentals table and produce a report based on that. So really it's just a matter of clicking available values, clicking that radio button, choosing these three things from the drop down, and that's it. So that's really all there is to it. Now if we run our report, it will be pretty much the same, but it'll be a little more user friendly. So notice now over here, instead of typing in or guessing a tape num, they can basically select the title, and if it's been rented, they can again hit view report or hit enter. It'll go look that up. I guess that was tape num 149. So those are the steps for creating a parameter report and then perhaps making the parameter a little easier to use.